Welcome to another episode of Prioritize. They accomplish while you drown in lists. It's difficult to juggle your responsibilities. Husband, father, brother. It goes on, but your energy doesn't.
You pondering what I'm pondering?
Prioritize what's right for you, not what's left behind. This is Prioritize with Toby Baker.
You'll have to speak up. I'm wearing a towel.
Greetings one and all. Thank you so much for joining us. This is Prioritize. I'm your crazy white, formerly fat host, the Baker Boy himself. Welcome to the show. Here we prioritize faith, family, relationships, and more. Oh my gosh. Can I share something with you here real quick and then we'll get into when's the last time you had a good set of hotcakes? Pancakes. Do you mean like the short stack? Yeah, like a solid good, like, oh my, I can go meet my maker now style shortcakes. Like, I've had everything there is, and this just tops it off. This is the icing on the proverbial cake, or as our friend Jim Gaffigan would say, like the fried cake for breakfast. This is the top. Like, this is it, and we're good. We're solid gold. I'm thinking, I just tried. I've been working on my hotcakes a little bit. I actually don't eat pancakes all that often. I'm looking at different recipes. You know, you ever get in the mood just to try to, how can I make this better? In the Kaizen of hotcakes, as one might say, I think I did a pretty good job. So I was using a frying pan. I'm going to encourage you to switch on over to a fried skillet, like an iron skillet. This thing almost never leaves our stove. It is on there all the time. It's not because we don't clean it. It's because we will use it for breakfast and then we'll turn right around and use it for dinner. It's like, why is these things are amazing. So I used an iron skillet this morning with bacon grease as opposed to butter. Oh. Are you salivating already? Hold on to your horses, because you take the hotcake powder, whatever it is, like a Bisquick. This stuff is actually called the hotcakes. And we toss in some sugar. Why? Sure, you need a little bit of sweetness. Okay, a little bit of sweetness. So I didn't use sugar. I used like monk fruit or stevia, something like that, like a sugar substitute. Because obviously I'm eating healthier nowadays. So, but you got to moderate, right? We don't have to be sugar and the maple syrup and all the sugars and the carbs. So we kind of cut a few things out and cut some other things in. So you get that. There was something else that I added into, lemon juice. You got to have lemon juice. Now, I just learned recently, and that's because I'm a slow learner. If you add lemon juice to milk and let it sit for a few minutes, let it go up to room temperature, you actually have a little bit of buttermilk. I didn't know about this. My chat assistant informed me of this. She's doing a good job. We have in the hotcakes, the sugar, the lemon juice, the milk, the egg, stirring this all together. I didn't use a motorized engine with the what's that thing called that they said at KitchenAid? I didn't use that one. This one, it's not even ours. Our son has one of those. Amazing. He loves doing the bake. He does a good job. All the kids, I think we taught them well. Plus, they learned a lot all on their own because they'll experiment and they throw something in the oven or they throw something on the stove and then they're all tasting it and they're like, hey, what maybe next time less salt, more sugar, or next time we use this sauce, or next time we add in the bacon. Like why does it even have to be next time? Don't we just add bacon to everything nowadays? It's only because it's prescribed by doctors everywhere. Anyhow, I got this thing, just great, right? The pancake batter is good to go. I got the skillet on the medium to low heat. It's starting to smoke. I throw in the bacon grease, and then that liquefies. We got that all over the base of the iron skillet. And I hope I'm not making you hungry. I just wanted to share this experience with you. So then we got the big glass picture, right? Everyone's got a glass picture. I don't know if everybody, maybe doesn't even. Use whatever you got. You know what? Don't listen to me, okay? You know what you're doing. You're a grown adult. Were you going to say something else in there, like another adjective? No, I don't think so. Just a grown person, grown individual, grown adult. Sometimes people throw in some other kind of adjective. I don't know what you mean. So you got your pitcher, you start pouring in the pancake batter, and automatically it starts bubbling up and looking good. Then, my friends, we're not done. You toss in the chocolate chips, right? It can be dark chocolate, it can be milk chocolate, and then that just kind of settles in right there. And then you flip it over, and it soaks up the rest of the bacon grease. Then you throw that on your plate, and then we're not done. You add syrup? No, there's something else. You add in the peanut butter. Now, this morning I used an almond butter, just, again, trying to do the healthy stuff. So, almond buttered it up. Then we add a dash of the Mrs. Butterworth's. Why? Because that's what we used when we was kids. You know, do you ever like just pick something over something else? It might be a little more pricey than the syrup next door, but this is what you knew. This is what you grew up with. And you just want to have that bit of nostalgia this morning. So maybe you got Looney Tunes on the television. You're sitting there. Oh, man, these things come out crispy too. Like on the edges, just a little bit crispy, not burnt. There's a difference. And it's amazing. I was like, oh, man. I think my mom made them like this. She didn't bake or cook a whole lot, but she knew how to make some pancakes, right? And I could just, I can hear her saying, you know, way back then, when you get older, you better know how to make pancakes. They're going to catch the mojo. And put a jacket on. So you have to learn how to make a good set of hotcakes or pancakes or shorts, you know, whatever you call them. But these were some amazing. I just wanted to share that with you. Not that that really has much else to do with anything, but my mom used to make them, you know, thinking of the traditions. We didn't always have it on Saturdays, but we certainly had traditions in our house. And I'm sure you do. And like the tradition time is coming up. It's right around the corner. Here we are. Thanksgiving is like 4 weeks away. I'm just going to let that sink in because it sneaks up on you every time, right? Which means that Christmas, it's like 8 weeks away. I'm sorry to break it to you. And I know you're like, wait, they moved it up? Yep, they moved it up. Last year it was, but on the 25th of December. This year they moved it up. It's on the 25th of December. Can you believe it? I got to think, like, why would you move it up? So it's earlier this year than I know. We look forward to this time all year round. And then it gets here and we try to make it last as long as we can. So we'll build into this and we'll do different events. There's light shows and Christmas trees and parades and there's the food, the baking, the cookies, the homemade Chex Mix. I'm sure by now you do this at your house after listening to me a little bit. You make hey, John, remind me later in another podcast, we're going to have to do the homemade Chex Mix recipe just so you can have it. Because I'm sure you're wondering, like, what is this amazing recipe? Fear not, my friends. You can ask ChatGPT. It's not going to give you the right one, okay? Don't ask the people at the store. They don't know. You know who knows? The baker boy himself knows. Oh, boy. Here we go again. I know. I know what I'm talking about. False. No, seriously. This is one of the best recipes for homemade Chex Mix, and to wash it all down, ice cold Coca-Cola in a glass bottle, or you could use the Coke Zero too. I'm not gonna hate on the Coke. I likes me some Coke Zero. Kind of moderates all the carbs you're about to ingest here with all the those beautifully salted corn Chex with the Chex Mix and the pretzels and the good stuff. Our boys have even taken it to a whole other level since when we were making it when they were kids. But I got to share this with you because I was looking forward to this for a couple of months. When I first saw it come out, I'm like, you know what? This would be fun. And I think my boys would enjoy going to go see this. And it was so cool. I really enjoyed it. The boys enjoyed it. It was great. We kind of made an afternoon out of it. We were down in Fort Wayne, and they got this place called Big Apple Pizza. Where you walk in, they got like 6 different pies that you could choose from. And so you walk in and you select a couple slices. They'll take that. They throw that back in their brick oven 5 minutes later, boom, you have a really beautiful slice of pizza. So they'd never been there before. I'm like, we gotta take you guys to go see this. It's just, that's how it's got to be. So, well, let me ask you a question. Have you ever, you just had an experience you wanted to share that with your kids? And I think this is where the traditions formally, like where they're all formed. Okay, you had something that you really enjoyed that happened when you were a kid, and raising up your own boys or your daughters, you want them to have that same kind of experience, something similar to it. Like you can't replicate everything dynamically to where it is word for word verbatim, so that but it's going to be entirely different anyway, because does this make sense? I have no idea what you see right now. So it's different for you because it was happening in a different environment, and your parents or your uncles or your family or friend members were family members or friends. They were doing this, involving you, including you in on it, and now you want to pass this on down to your kids. I am trying to think of why it meant so much. I think it was just part of the whole experience. And when I was a kid, we'd hop in the car. I'd have all my toys. I had to have my Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. I had some Muscle Men. If you remember the Muscle Men, there was this thing back in the 80s where they had these little guys. Everything was little back then. They had guts. If you remember the little Army Men guts, I thought those were cool. Then the Muscle Men. And they were just little action figures, and, it gave you something to do when you were trying not to be annoyed by your sister, or the country music that they would play on the way to everywhere. It's all right, though. I'm not bitter about it.
No, of course not. You don't sound bitter at all.
To try to avoid the country music, I would have my own, headphones. I never had a Sony Walkman. I had something, might have been RCA, Philips, Magnavox, and it wasn't the yellow branded ever so cool Sony Walkmans. Those were like, if you had those, you were in a whole different level. I was in a smaller, shorter, which was fine. I didn't die.
But did you die?
No, I didn't die. I'm still here. We tossed in the car, and everybody's there, and we're headed off to Grandma's. It wasn't really over the river and through the woods. I have no idea what route we took to get there, because every single time we went to Grandma's, it didn't matter if it was Easter Sunday, some kind of a weekend, or the big ones, Thanksgiving and Christmas. It was a different route. Pops just loved driving different routes, so that's what we did. And you got to find something to occupy your time, otherwise you're looking out the window at fields. That's what we have in Indiana and Michigan. Not a lot of hills. Once you get beyond some stuff, yeah, it can be, very environmental friendly, and you're looking out there, not beautiful scenery, but alas, I was a kid, and we get to Grandma's. The race for control began there, and it was the moment that you rolled into the driveway, and you had to hop out of the car. It could still be moving. You'd get yelled at by mom and dad, but it didn't matter, because at that moment, the very seconds were ever so important to the survival that would be your carcass, whether it's going to be alive or dead. You want a living carcass at this Christmas, you better hurry. And my thing is, I was really bad at hurrying. I'm a slow guy. So I really had to rush this thing through. Like the big goal was front of mind. And you rush into the front door and you pray to God above that door is unlocked. And thankfully every time it was, because Grandma lives out in the middle of nowhere. So you open that door wide and you're diving inside, and Grandma's at the table. Normally she was at the dining room table. Sometimes she'd be in the living room. And you move ever so quickly, as fast as you can, to the freezer. Why the freezer, you ask? And I'm glad that you did ask. So you swing the door open wide to reveal an orange, singular, tubular piece of Tupperware is what it was. It was like a cylinder with a cap on top, and you pull that cap off, and there's these magical things inside, to which Grandma would lovingly refer as ginger crinkles. Yes, friends, this is where the magic of the ginger crinkles was born, and we have carried on this tradition with our own home. It took me a while, but I did track down a god-awful orange-colored piece of Tupperware as a cylinder with the lovely faded white translucent cap on top. Why do we do these things? Because they bring back the good memories. So now every Christmas we have our own Tupperware of ginger crinkles safely stored in the freezer. They're just not there very long. Because our kids will come over and do the same exact thing. But I'm not bitter about it.
No, you do not sound bitter at all.
And I'd grab 4. Almost 4 per hand if I could stand it. If I thought I could get away with it. I would carefully close the freezer door and then try to breeze past Grandma. If I could, I'd give her a big old hug, and then into the living room I went. And she had 2 chairs. One was god-awful orange. The other one was a vomit green. And they had been there since... John, what year did Moses cross the Red Sea? You don't know? Okay. I think it was right around... I can't find the price tag, but somewhere in that area. And then, slowly the family would pour in with the pillows and I left all my luggage in the car, but it was okay. It didn't matter. Like, I knew where it was. I could go back later. That was not the important thing. Ladies and gentlemen, even at that very young, tender age, I was learning to prioritize the important things. And that was control of the television at Grandma's. Because God save you if you'd had to watch the Lawrence Welk Show. Lawrence Welk Show. Why in that time and age were we watching because that's what she loved. Have you ever heard of this thing? It's like purgatory, except it's not as fun. So you're watching this Lawrence Welk Show and the bubbles come from the bottom, and I guess that's their big transition into the next 70s or 60s. I don't know how long this thing has been showing, but there's certain people out there that love it, and that's their market. I was not their market. You know who I was? I was the punk kid who cared more about television than I did about hugging my own grandpa. I was the brat who cared more about control of the television and the cookies than I did about helping my mom and dad bring in all the stuff, all the things. Hopefully, prayerfully, we taught our boys better than that. But there was a certain movie, if I can direct your attention, there was a certain movie that I was headed for. And Grandma didn't do much with movies, okay? That's what grandmas did. They didn't do movies. They did baking, cooking, cleaning, the 3 big things, right? And you loved all of them because you didn't want to do the cleaning. And their baking and cooking was far superior to my own. Until I learned how to bake and cook from them and Pops and all the others and Mom but they weren't her movies. Like, she didn't record them she didn't know. I don't think she knew how to record on the VHS hi-fi 4-head video cassette player, the VCR. So my uncle did a lot of that, and they were from my uncle and aunt. They lived over in Peoria, Illinois. Not that that's of any great importance, but that was always a fun trip because I knew, like, looking at, I'd be in the car, and it didn't matter. That was a 7-hour, probably 6 hours or maybe 5, but it felt like 7 hours to get over there. That was okay because I knew once we arrived, I knew I had the basement all to myself. My Auntie Beth would have pizza rolls in the freezer. She would have these chocolate parfaits in a box from a company they called them Nips. I don't know who made them. They called them Nips. And she would have gummy bears from Black Forest. And that was the thing. Like, that was, like, I dined and gone to Peoria heaven. It was amazing. And he had, Uncle Gordon had this huge collection of movies. And I think that's what just kind of fueled my fire and passion for movies, is that I'd go over there. He had, like an unlimited amount of movies, and they were all categorized and filed and tabulated, and he had a list. He had like a 20-page list that was typed out. Like if you went to A49 on that cassette tape, there would be Jaws, or there would be Jaws 1, 2, 3 on that cassette tape. And I just pumped that in, and I'd get out my gummy bears and I'd start watching. But there was one that I found in particular that we would reminisce and watch over at Grandma's every year at Christmas, because it was the only thing I could stand watching over there. But I wasn't all, you're probably sitting there thinking, geez, this guy's an idiot. And a selfish idiot at that. And part of that's true.
I can testify. Yes, very true.
Okay, don't need that. But yeah, I was, but when you're a kid, you try to entertain yourself because all the adults are off doing adult things. So they're putting together puzzles and playing cards and baking and cooking for you. So what else do you think about? You think about you when you're a kid. Some people think about you when you're adult. Why are you looking at me?
What? I say nothing.
Okay, but you're giving me that look.
I'm not giving you anything.
So I looked through because it took me a moment to find the video cassette. And I finally found it, and I popped it out and threw it in the VCR and went to I'm trying to think, which chair was it that would better face the TV? And they didn't. I remember it was only a few years into our visits to Grandma's that they had replaced one of the chairs. It was after Grandpa had passed away. She held on to those things forever. And then I think all the pops and all the uncles got together and bought Grandma a new chair. It was better posture and for her back and stuff. But I'd press play, and you know what came on the screen? It was a very beloved and has its own cult following style movie from Steven Spielberg, Robert Zemeckis, called Back to the Future. And they had all three of them on this cassette, Back to the Future 1, 2, 3. And I'd sit back and watch, and there was some profanity, so you had to keep your finger close to the mute button, because if Mom heard or Grandma heard, you'd catch a beating. And you didn't want a beating when you're trying to enjoy Back to the Future. You just don't want that kind of thing. So recently, that was re-released in the theaters for just this weekend, and it was brought to my attention. I'm going through the Instagrams or the Grams, or the Insta-G. I don't know what they call it today, what the cool kids call it. And I came across that, and I shot a message out to the boys. They're like, yeah, let's go see that. Now, had we all seen it? Yes, we have. We have it on Blu-ray. I got all three of them on the Blu-ray, not to brag. I don't mean to brag, but yes, I have all three on Blu-ray. And we have a really nice setup at the house in the theater with the speakers and the screen, and something different about going to the movie theater with the boys. Did your parents ever take you to the movie theaters? My dad would. I'm trying to remember if mom would join the whole family on a couple of them, but she didn't go very often. Pops would take me. It wasn't often. Like, it was a rare thing. It was very, very rare. I remember him taking me to E.T. when I was just a little kid, and it killed his back. I didn't realize that the seats were that bad for the adults. When you're a kid, everything's rubber. Like you could bend over backwards and bend over forward, you're fine. If I tried to do that today, they'd put me in the morgue. Like, there's no coming back from that. But I remember him taking me to see Jaws the Revenge. And I remember, because I thought the whole title of the movie was Jaws the Revenge, July 13th. Now, the last part was just the date it was coming out at the local theater. So he took me to go see that. And we went to go see Home Alone and a couple others. But man, it was rare for us to go do this. So that was a big thing for me. And it's not, the theaters are not what they used to be. They're just not. They don't have near the movies. We sat I remember when you would go to the theater, they would have trailers and trailers and trailers, and now they don't have that as much. Now it's commercials. You actually have literal commercials ranging from candy, local stuff trying to advertise their wares and goods. You have pharmaceuticals. You have car commercials. And we got there just a little bit early because I didn't know what to expect at the theater. I didn't know if it was going to be packed out, like if there's just millions of people dying to go see this in the theater again. I was wrong. It was not packed out. So we got there in plenty of time. There must have been a good 30 minutes worth of commercials. And it sounds like hyperbole or I'm stretching it. Like, no, I couldn't be more serious. And then you had 2 or 3 of the trailers. And of course, they're bringing back the Grinch Who Stole Christmas because it's the 25th anniversary. And I guess Hollywood has just run out of ideas for Christmas. And of course they have, because Lifetime and Hallmark have every single idea under the sun for Christmas movies. Not that most of them are any good or worth watching. You see, gang, there's a portion in this book that the fellas gave me called Beginnings. And that's what I'm going back to. The things that you remember, that you hold close, that you hold dear. Either they were very, very painful and it teaches you to do something else or reminds you to make different choices, or there's things that you just really loved, right? Like we are coming up on Thanksgiving. It's a few weeks away. I know this. You know this. We reminded you. We talked about it a little bit. There's just good things around the family gatherings that get lost all throughout the year. There's the puzzles around the table during the holidays. There's the feasting and the feasting and the feast. The roast beast, the chicken, the turkey, the mashed potatoes with the gravy, the corn, the green beans. What's the kind of bread that they have? The bread pudding that they did with the turkey. Some stuffing, right? The stuffing. Do you guys do the stuffing around your house? The cranberry sauce on the turkey, the wine, the bourbon, the joking, I think we pretty much removed most of the politics. I don't know, but there's the good, the bad, the ugly, and then the next year you do it all over again. You know there's going to be the bad with the good, right? Because the fleas come with the dog, but you still want the dog. You got some crazy family members, but for some odd reason, that desire for community, hoping that this year will be even better than last year, that maybe your crazy Uncle Fred won't do drugs before I don't know. You know your family. We don't have a Uncle Fred. Our nieces have a crazy Uncle Toby who comes and tries to make them laugh and build memories. And
do you ever get asked, have you ever been asked a question like, what's your favorite time of year? What time is that? Is that the springtime when the birds are starting to come back out and it seems like the earth is coming back to life, or the fields are greening and the flowers are starting to bloom and the temperature's coming down? You get your bike out, you pop the top down on the roof, or you open up the moon roof, or you can switch back to the brighter clothes. You take walks outside, you runs outside. I mean, you change your behavior a little bit, like the gray skies. I don't know where you live, but in Indiana, we got gray skies from like, I don't know, September through April, like half the year. It really feels like there's just this kind of glooming sky. One of the reasons that the missus and I would like to move down to the Florida area, because A, palm trees, and B, man, you guys got sun down there like most of the year. It's fantastic. Well, the favorite part of the year for me it's just always been the Thanksgiving Christmas sandwich time. You know what I'm saying? Like, not that you're eating, but that time span where you're gearing up for Thanksgiving. You're going to be able to see your cousins, your family members, your nieces, nephews. You're going to be throwing, the little tykes against the wall with the sugar and the candy, and you get to spoil your nieces and nephews or your grandkids, and you get to spoil your own kids. Maybe I don't know. For me, I like buying and giving away. It's not something. I mean, like Joyce and I are not super wealthy. We're certainly better off than we were when we were first married. Man, finding enough money to go to Taco Bell. Now that was an event. That was huge, right? And now we can, like, what do you look forward to? I don't know if it's because God has gifted me with this burden of community where I enjoy the massive, collective of people coming together, and you just knew there was going to be a lot of laughs. There was going to be stories being shared and reshared and retold, and sometimes they were told wrong, and then other people would pipe in and correct it, and then it's funny for a whole new reason, right? You just had the collective of what felt like most, if not all, your family members in one room together, and you take turns sharing stories and stealing laughter, and you just ate and ate. It was like, I almost want to say it was like no other feeling. Maybe it's because it was the culture in which I was raised, but that's how holidays, I thought, were supposed to be. Thanksgiving comes around and you have this huge mass of family members crowding in a room or two rooms, and there's tons of food, and all the grandmas never sit down because they're working and cleaning and preparing and setting the table and bringing in and setting up all the appetizers, and then they're still working with the turkey and working with the mashed potatoes, garlic cheddar mashed potatoes, I might add. And then, they get everything set, everybody comes in, and then the grandfather or the eldest of the family is awarded prayer for the entire family over the food, over the feasting and the gathering together, and offering gratitude to, our Lord and Savior and God above for everything that we get to enjoy together, right? And yeah, you got the crazy uncles, and you got the overly political nonsense. It's not necessary in that space, but someone brings it up, and then there's some shouting match, and then that dissolves and into, whatever the next course of the meal is, right? I know I'm not alone in this. If you're listening to this podcast, I'm guessing your culture of holidays are very similar. I've lost track of how many, who's going to, my kids will remind me, Dad, you talked about that like 5 different podcasts in a row. I don't mean to. I guess I'm very fond of it. Hopefully you are too. I hope you have fantastic traditions that you continuously bring up and rehash, and maybe you add in new traditions. We've tried this before with our own boys, where we got some cards from Dr. John Deloney from the Ramsey people, Ramsey Group, Ramsey Solutions. You can go to his website. You can go to their website for Ramsey, and you can track down Dr. John Deloney. He's got really cool questions called questions for teens, questions for kids, questions for family, questions for friends. And it's non-invasive, kind of just beyond the surface questions that you can ask. And the idea is to get the ball rolling of conversation. And I don't think our boys like it. They'll have their own podcast where they will talk with each other, amongst each other, to each other for 45 minutes. I ask them a question like, hey, how's it going? Fine. Like the ball just drops there. I don't understand it. Do you have this thing with your kids? Like, do they share with you? Now, I will say, at the end of the week, Christopher will share, hey, what went on with your week this week? And Chris will go on. I asked that to our other son, Nick, and, well, it's a week. Like, give me some more fruit to this, okay? Don't just, this isn't Mother May I asked you a question. Give me some of the goods, man. Give me the details. Why? I'm interested in their life. And I'm guessing if you're a good father, if you're a good father, you're interested in the lives of your sons and your daughters. And you ask them questions like, hey, man, what was the highlight of your week this week? What were the low points? Is there anything going on that I can help you with? Why? Because that's what we as fathers do. We try to help. We try to fix things. It's not always within my wheelhouse because I'm not the best with a screwdriver. You know what I did this morning? I had So we've had two drawers. We've had the same kitchen cabinetry in our home since before we were there, it was there. So we've been there 21 years, and it was there for another 15 years on top of that. Beyond that, I don't know how old this is. So that should be a good indicator it's good cabinetry. The problem is we're set up in this corner. I don't know if you have this in your kitchen, but you get the drawers too close together and they don't want to open. That's what we've been maneuvering around for 20 years. So a couple years ago, I bought the drawer hardware and new stuff to kind of overhaul that. I got halfway through. So I got one of the three, I guess that's 1/3. Sorry, I'm thinking the two drawers. But there's three drawers all within this corner. They all need help. We got the hardware. I got 1/3 of it done. And then the other two was kind of like, I'll get to it. But it was such a hassle for me. I don't know. You're probably very handy. Congratulations. I'm happy for you. But it took me like 2.5. And it's just embarrassing. It was like 2.5 hours to my credit, the screws have been there since Moses wore short pants, okay? So you had to really, I almost had to get out the Sawzall for this thing or drill through the screw because it was in place. It was holding on for dear life. It didn't want to go anywhere. It's like, I've been here for 50 years. I'm not moving now. And so I had to do my best to convince it we'd like to change that out. So there you go. That embarrassing story of why do I say this? Because I didn't really have that gift of, tools to pass on down to our boys. But so yeah, I'm not the best at fixing things. It's not always within my wheelhouse there. So I can ask the boys, hey, you got anything going on I can fix? I know ChatGPT is pretty good for that. YouTube, one of the memories I always enjoyed as a kid was when we went to Grandma's, we gathered around this table and she had this hutch. Years later, a friend of mine would help me to transport that dining room table that had been in there forever. I think I asked Mom how long it's been there. And she remembers it being there since before her and Pops got married. So you can add on, I'm going to say like 50 years onto this table. So that's a long time. This table's been around for a while, and the hutch as well, because it was a set. Now it's in our home, and I really appreciate it. And now we can have, we've had several meals around this thing, from Easter dinner to the Thanksgiving dinner to Christmas dinner, and now we're sharing those memories. That's one of those things that go way, way back. And we've been able to share this with our own kids. So I want to encourage you here to do something worth remembering together, that your kids, that your family will recall years on down the road. Hey, you remember when Dad did this? And you remember when we would go to this place every year at this time? Do something worth remembering and make that a priority today, because tomorrow is promised to no one.